Oil prices are taking a hit with the COVID increase. Quite honestly, I don't agree with this whole COVID thing and what you're reading in the news, but hey, it's part of the economics of the oil and gas game, okay? And what you're seeing today, it's not going to last very long. I mean, if you see snow outside, you know it's going away. I mean, we could talk about the snow, but the sun's going to melt this thing. COVID is going away, guys. Demand is coming back. I don't care what you read in the news. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about what's going on with India, decreasing their reliance on Saudi oil. We're going to talk about the Houthi rebels dropping bombs on Saudi oil facilities. We're going to talk about shale oil and gas and a few other things. I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, if you're interested in oil and gas, please subscribe. WTI crude 59.31, Brent crude 63.01. What caused the Saudi-India oil rift? Saudi Arabia said it was hiking the official selling prices for its oil for Asian buyers. In response, India ordered its state refiners to reduce their purchases of Saudi oil. The game is on. OPEC's largest producer announced the price hikes for Asian buyers days after OPEC Plus agreed to start adding barrels to their daily output, reducing a production curb that has had India repeatedly protesting against what it calls an artificial way of keeping oil prices high. OPEC has been doing this for years. Next month, Asian refiners and traders will have to pay $1.80 above the Oman Dubai benchmark, averaging for shipment Saudi crude. So India is playing a game with Saudi Arabia, and they're saying, hey, look, we don't have to import oil from you guys. We'll start importing oil from America. But here's the deal. Saudi Arabia is getting hit on every side. They're having to take the brunt of the oil curbing, the reduction of oil to balance the markets, okay? Russia's like, hey, good luck, Saudi Arabia. And they're continuing to increase production. I mean, OPEC Plus and Saudi Arabia is making it seem they're okay with Russia, but deep down they're probably pissed because they're taking the brunt of this thing. And on top of that, they're losing market share to America because America is replacing the oil that India is not buying from Saudi Arabia. While OPEC ramps up production, U.S. oil output is projected to fall. The lower output forecast comes as Wall Street has grown reluctant to fund growth, while shale operators are focused on increasing cash flow and return to investors rather than adding production. That's a fancy way of saying we got our butts kicked, guys, and nobody's investing in our oil projects because out of 35 shale companies, there was a study done that every one of those companies lost money. They studied years of production, years of capital expenditures, and they found out that none of them made any money. Now, the shale game, there are some companies out there that are making money in shale. I will agree with that. The majors, Exxon, these massive oil plays that everybody thought was going to be lucrative ended up being a big loser. And most of these shale companies, Exxon, Chevron, all of these guys blaming it on COVID-19. They're blaming it on low oil prices. Look, I'm here to tell you that they weren't profiting even at $80 oil. They lost. And the study on these 35 companies, that doesn't just go back during COVID. It goes back 10 years. And every one of those companies lost money. So the banks, they're not touching it. They're not going back to tight oil. And for anybody to believe that, hey, when COVID-19 ends and when oil prices increase, everybody's going to be investing in shale again. Look, it's done, guys. Unless Exxon or these major oil companies find a new way of producing oil, they're done. With the U.S. is unlikely to return to previous output levels for good reason. Nobody's investing in you guys. OPEC is moving to roll back part of their supply cuts in the coming months. It would be very hard for the U.S. oil and gas industry to get back to over 13 million barrels a day. I don't think it's going to happen, Occidental Petroleum Corp Chief Executive Officer Vicki Hollub said at a conference Tuesday. Too much investment would be required, she said, reiterating her view that U.S. has passed peak oil production. This is a chart here talking about India gasoline consumption, okay? And so as you can see here from April 2010 all the way to January 2021, Gasoline consumption continues to rise. Of course, we dropped during COVID lockdowns, and they're starting to continue. Gasoline usage is a very good indicator that oil is here to stay and demand is increasing. OPEC is betting big on robust oil demand recovery. Most analysts continue to believe that the market will be able to absorb the new barrels from OPEC Plus with a strengthening demand going into the summer months. Goldman Sachs, for example, is still bullish on oil and anticipates a strong demand that would require OPEC Plus putting another 2 million barrels per day on the market in the third quarter after the round 2 million barrel per day that the alliance in Saudi Arabia decided to return between May and July. Climate change net zero targets are pie in the sky. India lambasted the richer world's carbon cutting plans, calling long-term net zero targets pie in the sky. Their energy minister said poor nations want to continue using fossil fuels and the rich countries can't stop it. India, the world's fourth largest emitter, doesn't seem to be keen to join the club. 2060 sounds good, but it's just that it sounds good, Raj Kumar said. India's Minister for Power told a meeting organized by the International Energy Agency. I would call it, and I'm sorry to say this, but it's pie in the sky. Now, look, here's the deal. Everyone truly believes that, everybody's coming aboard of this whole green initiative. Okay, when a guy like Mr. Raj Kumar, who is India's Ministry for Energy, is telling people, look, this is pie in the sky, isn't on board with these things. I think you got a lot of yes men sitting at the table, but now people are starting to talk. Okay, people are starting to realize that this green initiative is really impossible, but Biden's already jumped on this ship and they're moving full steam ahead regardless of the implications of this thing. I'm telling you right now, we're on our way for not having enough oil. We're playing into the hands of the Middle East, OPEC, Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia. All of these guys want this to happen. And they're like, good luck, America. And everyone's sitting there thinking, is this even going to work? But at the end of the day, green initiative is pie in the sky, and it's just not going to work. You can't just replace fossil fuels overnight. And the things that they're asking to do is impossible. But he made some campaign promises. He won over the young vote because of these ridiculous claims about global warming, what's happened in this green initiative. And so at the end of the day, he's just trying to fulfill campaign promises to keep egg off his face. He's kicking the can down the road. The mess that the next president's going to have to deal with this whole green initiative and there not being enough oil, man, it's going to be a mess, guys. Mr. Singh pointed out that while it was the richer countries who had burned most of the fossil fuels that have caused the problems, they now wanted developing countries to stop. That was unfair. He said, look, I agree with that. You know, these emerging markets that are just starting out, they can't build skyscrapers in a massive economy going green. They just can't. I mean, look here, the developed world has occupied almost 80% of the carbon space already. You have 800 million people who don't have access to electricity. You can't say they have to go to net zero. They have the right to develop. They want to build skyscrapers and have a higher standard of living. You can't stop it, he told in the meeting. Now, look, most people don't realize, especially the young people, the ones that voted Biden and is focused on green, they don't realize that the reason why America has the highest standard of living is because of cheap energy, is because of oil, because of fossil fuels, okay? And so these emerging markets are figuring out, we can't do this with green tech. It's impossible. These guys living in their basement, they don't know anything about energy. They have good intentions. Who doesn't want to save the planet? You're not going to save it with green tech. I mean, if you want to shut down the economy and have a lower standard of living, let's do it. Saudi Arabia's scramble for an exit strategy in Yemen. Look, Saudi Arabia is getting their butts kicked in Yemen. The Houthis have proven to be formidable fighting force. Saudi Arabia does not have a comparable ground game that can match their adversaries. This reality is far from what Saudi Arabia had initially anticipated, entered into the war via Operation Decisive Storm in March 2015. Saudi Arabia thought it would win this war via bombing campaign, and it would all be over in a few weeks. We have now entered the 7th year of this war with no clear end in sight, Hashemi said. In fact, the Houthis have been on the advance ever since, and Saudi Arabia is in position where it is implausible to become the war's victor. The Houthis control the capital, Sana'a, and large parts of Yemen's northwest. Saudi Arabia stepped into a war they can't finish and they can't win. All right, so this is a timeline of the Yemen war that began in 2014 when Houthis seized Sana'a. All right, I'm going to read a few highlights here. May 5th, 2015, Houthi rebels fire mortar rounds and rockets at the Saudi city of Najran near the border, killing at least three civilians. October 2016, an airstrike by the Saudi-led coalition hits a crowded funeral in Sana'a, killing at least 140 mourners. The Houthis say they fired a ballistic missile at the Saudi capital of Riyadh. That's May 2017. May 15, 2019, Houthis drone attacks an oil pipeline in Saudi Arabia. June 23rd, 2019, Houthi bomb-laden drones target the Saudi airport and Abaha, killing 1 person and wounding 7. August 17, 2019, Houthis launched drone attack on Saudi Arabia's Shabah oil field near the kingdom's border with the UAE. September 14, 2019, Houthi rebels launch drone attacks on Saudi Arabia's oil facilities, halting about half of the supplies from the world's largest exporter of oil. January 18, 2020, a missile attack by the Houthis hits an army camp, the central province of Marib, killing at least 111 troops and wounding at least 68. February 2020, airstrikes by the Saudi-led coalition kill at least 36 people, including 26 children and 6 women, in the mountains northern province of Jok. The attack comes after Houthis shot down a coalition warplane. November 23, 2020, Houthis say they struck a Saudi oil facility in the port city of Jeddah with a new cruise missile. February 2021, Biden says the U.S. is ending support for the Saudi-led coalition fighting in Yemen and calls for a ceasefire. That's big. That's a big deal because Saudi Arabia depends on America for protection. And with the fact that Biden has publicly said, hey, we're pulling out, that gives a tremendous amount of instability to the Middle East. Quite simply, if you were anti-Saudi Arabia and you were a part of that war out there, you would see that as a major win for the Houthi rebels. Okay, and so it would probably give you more desire to go take out Saudi Arabia because they're sitting ducks right now without the America's protection. A State Department official says the Biden administration is moving to revoke the designation of Houthis as a terrorist group. That says a lot about where the Biden administration is with the Houthi rebels. Okay, Houthi rebels target Saudi Arabia's Abaha airport with bomb-laden drones, causing a civilian plane on the tarmac to catch fire. That's February 2021. Okay, that's recently. And so here's the deal. Biden administration's pulling out of helping Saudi Arabia, and now they're discussing revoking the designation of the Houthis as a terrorist group. I mean, that if I was Saudi Arabia, I'd be very frustrated. And they're getting hit on every side, guys. They're losing market share with their oil. They're having to curb production to balance the oil markets. They're losing India as a major importer, and they're getting destroyed by they got beat in Yemen. Houthis continuing to attack them, and America is pulling away from Saudi Arabia. Yemen's Houthis warn of stronger attacks after drone strikes on Saudi Arabia. Yemen's Iran-aligned Houthis said on Friday they had attacked Saudi energy and military sites with 18 armed drones, and the kingdom's energy ministry reported that a projectile had struck petroleum products distribution station, causing fire. Okay, this is the latest in a series of Houthi attempts to disrupt global energy supplies. Okay, isn't it obvious? So this is recent, March 12th. Drone strikes attempt to disrupt Saudi oil exports. Whoever was responsible, the key point for oil markets was that there were forces that had both the intent and the capability to disrupt Saudi productions and exports. This is just a recent article that just popped up a few minutes ago. Saudi-led coalition destroys a Houthi ballistic rocket fired at Jazan State TV. The Houthi rebels are relentless. They're going to continue to drop bombs on Saudi Arabia until they disrupt oil prices to the point of increasing it to a level that it's going to be profitable for the Middle East. Okay? They have no choice but to play these games. I mean, Russia, Saudi Arabia, Iran, Venezuela, all these countries are bleeding out. They cannot balance their checkbooks with oil prices at $60 oil. They just can't. In the past, it was very easy. They just curb production and oil prices go up. Well, they can't do that anymore thanks to tight American oil. Well, Biden's destroying American oil and gas production. He is destroying it by causing everybody not to want to invest in. I mean, they campaigned with billions of dollars talking about how they're going to put oil and gas owners in prison. They're divesting from the oil and gas industry. They're making it harder to get leases to develop oil and gas properties. And so what is all that going to do in the end? It's going to cause energy prices to skyrocket. This is exactly what Saudi Arabia wants. This is exactly what Putin wants. This is exactly what Iran wants. This is exactly what every terrorist in the Middle East wants, because most of their rockets are paid by what? Oil. And who is selling most of these rockets? America. Guys, it's a big cash cow for all of these people. And this is the problem with very few people making the decision for billions of people. All right, guys, I'm Sean Pruitt, president of Kingdom Exploration. If you like this channel, please subscribe, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.